A beast of peaceful grace, the Javan elephant, a forgotten titan of a bygone era, roofed in the center of Java, where the gentle rustle of leaves and the distant cries of invisible creatures formerly filled the air. It moved through the hazy light like a shadow of time and wisdom, walking the soil as a protector of the forest. It was not boisterous or arrogant, yet it was felt in the way the trees bowed to its passage, in the round, deep imprints pressed into the wet ground, and in the shuddering silence of the underbrush as it passed through its kingdom of emerald. The presence of this beast is only faintly hinted at throughout history. It was never a legendary animal, the focus of epic stories, or depicted on temple walls with the same respect as Sri Lankan or Indian elephants. Without leaving behind the monuments or artifacts that may have guaranteed its place in our collective memory, it slipped through time like a mystery. Nevertheless, it continued to breathe the same air and drink from the same rivers that still flow through Java today, possibly for thousands of years. According to some, it was a relative of the enormous Asian elephant, a child of the Elephas maximus family, and was transformed into something more diminutive and compact but no less beautiful by the embrace of the island. Some people think it was something quite else, a species that arose out of the haze of evolution only to be swept away by the passage of time before it could ever be completely understood. Where it once stood, trees now grow, and the bones that should have told its story are lost beneath the layers of ground. Its big ears flapped like the wings of some vast forgotten bird, its tusks glistened in the golden light of evening, and its thick, wrinkled skin, which carried the aroma of the rain-soaked ground, were all signs of its ancient pedigree. Its trunk, that amazing manifestation of strength and compassion, could peel the hardest tree bark away while simultaneously softly touching a newborn calf's face. The wisdom of centuries was contained in its eyes, which were as deep and dark as woodland ponds. Its knowing stare was able to comprehend the earth's quiet language. They were beings connected by an unbreakable bond of kinship rather than lone travelers. They moved over the land in close-knit herds, their lives entwined like the vines that hung from Java's great trees, under the leadership of their matriarchs, who were as wise and stable as the mountains. They were aware of the secret routes to water, the safest hiding places beneath the tall canopies, and the unspoken warnings that were carried by the wind. They also wept when one of their own fell. Reluctant to depart and reluctant to say farewell, they stood in silent vigil, using their trunks to trace the bones of the deceased. They were animals of deep feeling, memory, and something we may never fully comprehend. Therefore, they experienced the weight of loss as well as the warmth of affection. However, as the world changed, so did the Javan elephant's destiny. The trees that served as their haven for generations began to dwindle as a result of humanity's unrelenting progress. To provide room for fields and communities, the trees that had previously served as imposing sentinels, providing cover and food, were felled. After human expansion, the rivers that had cooled their exhausted bodies dried up. The hunters followed, men who sought profit where a living, breathing soul had once existed and who saw only ivory where life had once existed. Their numbers declined as a result of the gradual, agonizing deterioration of existence rather than a massive, abrupt disaster. They vanished one after another, vanishing into the past, until none remained. The woods were deserted, the paths they had once followed were overgrown with weeds, and their cries had been replaced with quiet. Nobody has documented the last heartbeat of a species that formerly roamed this area so freely, nor does anyone know the precise moment the last Javan elephant fell. According to some, their existence faded before the emergence of powerful empires and the maps that would eventually map the world, and they disappeared as early as the 14th century. According to another, they continued to survive for a longer period of time, possibly until the 18th century, lingering in obscure regions of Java until the last of their kind perished. However, there is a rumor, a persistent mystery, that implies some of them survived. Some people think that years ago, Javanese monarchs sent a couple of these gentle giants to the far-off island of Borneo because they loved them. Far from the woodlands that had previously been their home, they were set free into the wild there, their lineage continuing in a new area. The lost Javan giants are strikingly similar to the Bornean elephants, who are smaller and softer than their mainland brethren. Could they be living evidence that not everything was lost, their descendants? Or is this just another narrative, another ghost story spun from regret and longing. The Javan elephant as it was is no longer there, regardless of whether its ancestry persists elsewhere. It has vanished from our reality, leaving just the eerie weight of absence and doubts. Grand structures and ruins were not left behind, but something more profound was. A lesson, a warning, a silent appeal carried by the wind. It serves as a reminder of the precarious equilibrium between nature and humanity, the price of apathy, and how quickly life can pass us by before we ever recognize what we have lost. We are now left with nothing but echoes as the rivers sculpt their courses through terrain that was once sculpted by the footsteps of giants, and the Javanese woods stand in eerie silence. Echoes of a world that was more amazing than it is now, echoes of what was, echoes of what might have been. Although the Javan elephant is no longer with us, perhaps we can learn from its death and the lessons it left behind to do better, to safeguard the remaining ones, and to make sure that no more giants are lost to the ages. Thanks for watching. Please like, share and subscribe for more interesting videos.